if you clicked on this video, you know what you're here for. I'm going to be going over all of the beginner puzzles, in my opinion, and how you can, stop being a beginner at them and kind of break the barrier to let yourself start solving way faster and unlock new boundaries. So the boundaries I'm going to be helping you guys with today are going to be sub 2 on 4x4, about sub 15 on Pyraminx, on 3x3, about sub 30, on OH, sub 1, FMC, just not DNFing in my opinion, because, I think that's a solid way to start, until you're really getting to, domino redux or something, you're not gonna have to learn anything specific, and if this is really your thing, then that's a whole different video, and stuff that I also don't know. For 2x2, sub 10. For clock, sub 20. For Skewb, sub 15. 5x5, sub 330. And for Megaminx, sub 5. So I say these because these are coming cutoffs and time limits. So for 3x3, sub 30, I think is a big place where I was able to stop learning new algorithms and go from averaging about 32, learning some for look CFOP and some very shaky F2L, and practicing my cross, and eventually cutting it down to 19 seconds. Now I'm averaging about 14 a couple months later, but I did have to learn some more proper CFOP, better F2L, and my TPS is higher than ever. I'm peaking from about high 4 to high 5. So yeah, Pyraminx, by the way, Pyraminx and 2x2, realistically, you definitely want to be more easily sub 15 on this, and you want to be very easily sub 10 on this. I just say that because those are places where, you should start, and I'm not going to be, sub 7, sub 8.5, right? Little bit of a weird number, but with that out of the way, let's get into it. So, I'm going to be starting with 3x3 here, and just in general, I do think that you need a solid cube to start off. A good place to buy them is Speed Cube Shop and The Cubicle. Those are the ones I would recommend, but even just Amazon has decent options, and I think that they'll greatly improve your times, even if you get a budget cube. For me, I think, I like cubing a lot, so I do it a lot, so for me, getting fairly high quality cubes is, more warranted than someone who's just, dabbling into it. So, I decided that until I got slightly more serious into cubing, as in when I started consistently going to competitions, you don't even have to be good. You can be averaging a minute on 3x3, but as long as you're consistently coming to competitions and practicing, I think that warrants you getting a better cube. For setup, I use Martian and Stardust Lube. I don't really mod many of my puzzles, however, sometimes I'll loosen my 5x5, and for clock, I don't really mod it, because I think clock, the normal thing that we use, or most clock solvers use, is the what's this called, the Chi clock. So in my opinion, it's much better when you can break it in after a couple thousand solves. And then yeah, I think that's about it. So yeah, I will say also some of these are just fit to my turning style. Obviously, Waylong V11 isn't for everyone. Y'all are gonna hate me for that. If you know, you know. Pretty much this is very notorious for pops when you're trying to move the center, not centers, but edges, middle layers. So that's the whole thing with it. And yeah, I think most of my cubes, these are pretty common choices. Again, Megaminx, that's kind of up to you, but yeah, I guess 2x2 as well. Some people use GAN, but I like my UV coated Moyu one a little better. So yeah, starting with 3x3. So 3x3 and 3x3 OH, I actually, like, I use the same cube, but sometimes I'll lube it differently, so I like more of a, which one? More of a blocky feel that clicks into place for OH, and getting a new cube for OH is so incredibly great. The first time I got it, I visibly felt how much less I had to actually try to move. On my old cube that was like partially broken, it genuinely, like, it was work trying to turn this. But now, like, it's much easier to just turn the cube. Right, but on 3x3, I have a pretty fast turning style, and I take some breaks in between. I'm working on getting fewer rotations. I actually got 2 rotations off today, which is pretty nice. And yeah, so for 3x3, to be sub 30, you can learn beginner's method, but here's a couple things I highly advise to you. Firstly, when you're doing 3x3, if you choose to do beginner's method, it is going to be a lot harder to get sub 30. I started at the end of when I started using beginner's method to when I started CFOP. I think my average in comp was about 32. So yeah, right now, if I've done some beginner methods all just for fun. I get like 19s sometimes. Those are good ones for me. So it's definitely something where, like, my, like, cube tracing skills look ahead, that helps me. But just knowing beginner's method won't let you get the same outcome. So the first thing I'll say is color neutrality. So when I go over all of these, I'll tell you what side you're going to go for first. So for 3x3, I'm white-yellow color neutral. I choose this because I think only doing white is too risky, because if you have like a not great cross and you can't have good look ahead on it, then it's bad. Or even if your cross is decent, but you have like 2 free pairs on the other side, pretty easy choice, am I right? So I do both. You definitely want to avoid making that yellow daisy. It really will slow you down. It was definitely something that took me a few solves to break out of, but wasn't terrible for me. You just have to remember blue and green are opposite of each other, and orange-red are opposite of each other. So the way that I do it is I see that blue needs to have a U. So that means when there's a U, and since there's an orange here, an orange needs to be inserted into this spot. And then a red would be inserted opposite of the orange, and a green opposite of the blue, and that inserts. So even before I knew not beginner F2L, that's definitely not the best way to say it, but yeah, just not beginner F2L, I would find these pairs. And when you have a pair like this, what you want to do is find the place where you need to insert it, and then do the following algorithm: U, R, U prime, R prime. U, R, U prime, R prime. What this does is it makes a block for us called an F2L block, which is a first 2-layer block. After this, I do recommend just inserting them. Like, there are really 3 main cases. The first one is the RU R prime, but it will be helpful to know that if it's here, you can do an L prime U2 L, something like that. And if it's here, you don't have to take it and insert. Rather, you can lift up this layer and insert. And I'm just gonna generate the last case. So when you have this, what I would do when I was a beginner is R, when it's facing the slot where it needs to go into, is R, U2, R prime, U prime, R, U, R prime. And then you're gonna insert the edges. So if it's here, you need to insert it into the orange green. But it should be to identify input over, and since it needs to go right, you're gonna push it this way and do R U prime R U R prime U prime. Then some people rotate, some people don't, but F U prime F prime U prime F. Now if you need to do it into the left hand slot like this, you do the same thing opposite. L prime U prime L U F U F prime. Now which way does this need to go into? Right hand or left hand? If you said right hand, you'd be correct. Now what's the algorithm? R U R prime U prime F prime U prime F. On the last layer, what I recommend is gonna be learning for CFOP, and I know it sounds annoying, but it's really not that many algorithms. If you're not willing to do that, you can use beginner's method, where I would advise looking at Cubehead's video for that. But what I do is, even just using 2LookCFOP, I can figure out what algorithm this is. I know how to one-look that because I've done it enough times. And then I know that this is the PLO. But some people don't know that that's the PLO. So if you have this, and you have two of the headlights, you're gonna wanna solve a JB perm, and then do whatever EPLO or edge PLO you have to solve the cube. I personally, for the U perms, I do the ones which are supposed to be the OH algorithms, because they feel more natural to me. But when possible, for one of the U perms, I do the flick one. Sorry, oh my god, I'm trash. Wait. Yeah, it's not really known for how consistent it is. That's what it's supposed to look like, maybe a little faster, but yeah. Some big tips I would give for this is try to memorize how you're gonna do your cross, and try to strive on high TPS when you're beginning, but also have good look ahead when you can for inserting these corners. For OH, I get that a lot of people don't like trying to do the same thing as 3x3 and their hand just can't move as fast, right? But I think for a lot of people at some point in their OH career, what will happen is they'll have a moment, or a few moments for me, where something will just click in their head and they start being way faster. If you're gonna practice OH, my main advice for getting sub 1 would be, I use my right hand, but you can use your left hand. Left hand is pretty advised, but for me, I find it easier to use my right hand. But it's really just from a person-to-person basis. I know some people who've gone 10 averages who use their right hand, so yeah. And it's really your choice in that sense. I think that for OH, you're not going to be able to turn as fast. Usually on a good OH solve, I can get maybe up to 3 TPS, which is a little generous for me, not gonna lie. But when I can get to 3 TPS, it's good and all, but what's even better is you can look ahead in OH solves and really try to find the best solution every time. You also have more time to inspect the cube while you're doing your algorithms. That's what I think helps it for me. But I think constantly drilling the algorithms that you need to learn on OH, any finger trick way that you want, will be helpful for you. Next, FMC. So I'm not really gonna explain to you guys how I solve it, but for me, I just create the cross in the most intuitive way that I know and try to build blocks if I can. By block, I mean, like, let's say this is the scramble. See, I try to save moves like that. And what I do is, like, I'll insert a couple pairs. I'm really bad at FNC, by the way. I average about 50 to 55, so pretty bad, but it's fine. And then on your last two pairs, find multiple ways to insert them and ways to mess around. I've seen some cubing YouTubers throw this around, but doing a soon is really just inserting and reinserting a pair. You take it out, do a U, and then put it in another way. Same with an anti-soon. Take it out, U prime, and insert it another way. So here, I'll do that, but then I realized that that's not a good one, so I'll do it a different way that can hopefully help me to get a decent last layer. Something more like logistical about FNC, not DNFing, is what I do is I'll read out my thing to myself, and instead of thinking about it as algorithms, I really try my best to, this is not a joke, if it says L, I'll be like, do an L prime. If it's an F prime, do an F prime. Note that you cannot do slice moves in FMC unless you do like an RL prime. It's pretty helpful to learn rotations. Y prime, Y, X prime, X. Pretty helpful to learn in my opinion. But yeah, also keep in mind that you can use wide moves. It will be much easier on you if you know that you can do something like this. If you have this, you can just do a wide move, don't worry. You can solve it. What's the other way to solve it? Wait, I'm just stupid. No, I'm just stupid. So yeah, then I'll also go under the table, and since I use 3 cubes, I'll get 3 cubes, scramble 2, solve them under the table with the moves I see. They're solved. Scramble all 3 now, do them under the table. If they come out solved, that's my answer. I highly advise that you take all the time you need to do it. I'm so tired of seeing people take 20 minutes to do their FMC solution and end up with a 65 DNF. Next up, let's go to 5x5. For 5x5, as tempting as it may be, I do not recommend just seeing, oh, it's more expensive, it's a triple track, I have the money to spend. Regardless of how much it costs, triple track is just not as helpful to some people, and in my opinion, it's harder to turn. I like using this because it's much easier to turn and it has less like resistance and magnet power on it. So double track or single track is really the way to go in my opinion. And it's worth it not to have the UV coating to me. So yeah, so if we're getting sub 330, which is usually about time limit on the lower end, maybe 3 could be the time limit in some cases. Not even really. What I would recommend is when you're making your centers, really do those a lot. Try to pattern recognize and find how you can most intuitively solve it. And for the first 1 and 2 centers, know that not as much doesn't have to be affected. And what I mean by that is if we're solving right here, a lot of people might go here, here, here to solve the white side, because that'll solve it and the yellow, and nothing else will be affected. However, if you've only completed the white side, or haven't completed any side, just do that. Nothing else matters because you haven't started solving it yet. in terms of edge pairing, try to look less and less each time, and try to see where the pieces are going after you make your pairs, and look while you're making the pairs so you can look ahead into new ones. I don't think really anything besides beginner's methods needed, which can't be said for everyone. Moving on to 4x4, the second to last n by n cube we have here. To become sub 2, my main advice is parity. Both should be sub 5 very, very easily. So I actually use a pretty weird PLL parity. Some people do, almost everyone does that one, but I do U wide 2, R wide 2, U2, this R slice 2, U2, R wide 2, U wide 2. If that looks appealing to you, try to use it. And I'm pretty sure I used the Lucas parity. Not 100% sure on the name, but it's the one where you keep doing the, like, U2 and RL. And RL. So, yeah. Sorry, I was, like, looking at the camera and just got messed up here. Now, in my opinion, it's worth it to not have to completely just be looking for each pair and how you solve it. So I would just keep solving until you get to this step. And what you want to do is the green should be facing green, blue to blue. So you want them oriented the same way, either both facing away or pointing towards each other. And then do the following algorithm after rotating. And that'll solve the edges. And I think that approximately you should be taking maybe 5 seconds more on 4x4 on the last step than your normal 3x3, because you won't always have that good of look ahead, and you can't just magically know how you're going to do the cross. But seeing the cross after doing one of your last pairs is so helpful that I just cannot stress it enough. Here's the parity method, by the way. So let's go on to Megaminx. So for Megaminx, my main advice to get sub 5 is just do 10 solves. It's really not that bad to get sub 5 on this. I think it's not really necessary to become color neutral. Although I did say get 2-side color neutral on all of these cubes. On Megaminx, you really just need to know how to do the white side. One thing that I think will be helpful for you is figuring out where each of your cross edges will go, and them not having to be solved to solve another piece. Very helpful. And honestly, if you want to be getting like some sub 230 times, learning full F2L will greatly help you. I do use beginner's last layer though, so I can't really be talking. I am averaging about 155 to 205 on Mega, 108 to 118 on 4, 220 to 235 on 5. On FMC, I'm averaging around 50 to 55, as I said. On 3x3, I'm averaging about 12 to 14. And on OH, I'm averaging on a good day anywhere from 30 to 35. Yeah, on Mega, there's not much advice I can give you. I think knowing when you put it down and keep it up in your hand is helpful. I keep it down for almost the entire solve. That's really just my opinion. speaking of those rotations and how you hold it, let's go on to clock. Clock not being a twisty puzzle, I did say it. I don't agree with the WCA's opinion to take it off the roster, but objectively, this is not a twisty puzzle. But anyways, here's how I got to sub 9 with beginner's method. So first off, on clock, to become sub 20, you need to break in your clock a little bit, and you don't really have to mod it that much. So I use beginner's method, and I think that you should be comfortable sorry, let me just scramble really quick. So I think that you should not only be able to solve when these two are matching, but also be able to solve when these two are matching. I think it's pretty solid skill to have. Those are the two main things. I do see that a lot of people don't solve the down with their thumb. This was kind of a thing for me, where I never really had this issue, and I didn't even really know that a lot of people had this issue till very recently. But anyways, some stuff that you should be thinking about is, after you do your first move, where's the next one gonna be? For me, I don't flip like this. Rather, I flip from the side. That's up to you. Figuring out how the pins work is also pretty helpful. Common mistakes besides not doing the bottom with your thumbs include not having all the pins pushed up when you're solving the last couple corners, not putting the cross to 12 o'clock on the first side after you flip, before you flip. One big thing actually would be people trying to turn when it's like this and then not being able to turn it back. And yeah, that's really the main things. I think clock, you can experiment a lot, and in your inspection time, try to think about finger tricks and what you're gonna be doing during your solve. Yeah, that shouldn't take you too long though, unlike getting sub 15 on Skewb. Now, this might be one of the harder goals to achieve. So I only know one algorithm, and I average about 6 to 8 seconds on Skewb, generously. Really, I average about 7 to 8, but sometimes I can get like some nice 6 averages in there, sometimes even 5. So all you need to know is sledge. My finger tricks are very bad for sledge. Corner twisted. Yeah, my finger tricks are very, very bad for it, so I'm sure y'all could do way better. But just knowing how to apply it each time. Finding how to do the first layer. First of all, this can obviously be neutral on clock, color neutral on clock, and just to go for the side that you think that looks easier. I say easier, whichever one looks easier, because unless you're like me or some like actually good clock solvers, you can't really tell what the second side's gonna be like. So go for the easier one so you can have better look ahead. On Skewb, you should be able to solve from any side. And when you're making the first layer, think about how pieces affect each other. So if I'm solving this, I know that I don't want to insert this piece to here first, or do this. Since I already want to take this piece out and take it here, we can take it out, but if we insert it before this piece, then it's gonna push it away, and then we would need to undo the move to insert. So just do that in the first place and you'll be all set. For this case where you have to do 2 sledges, sledge number 1, turn, sledge number 2. For this case, where you only have 3 incorrect, if they're in the same line or horizontal like that, then you just do a sledge on the opposite block and a sledge after doing a Y2. For the case that's like this, what I advise is finding the piece that needs to go on the top, do a sledge, rotate, do another sledge. For a Z-perm, when it's like this, go between the two and do a sledge, rotate, do a sledge, and then you'll get a U-perm. Same concept if you're having an H-perm, and if you're having the one where it's only one's oriented and 2 sides are oriented, have the side and the back, and just do triple sledge. If you have this where these 3 need to be swapped, what I do is triple sledge into a U-perm. If you have this case, what you don't want to do is go on the side where the top one's matching the one in front of you. You want these 2 to be different, and you can do sledge, rotate, sledge into a U-perm. I'm not 100% sure how to generate this case. Let me try my best really quick. So this is the H-perm where you treat it like a Z-perm. If you have this case where you have one side and one where it's opposite, then you're gonna go to the right of it, do the sledge, rotate, sledge, and then you'll either get a U-perm or something else, which I'll show you. Or you'll get this, where you have 2 the same and the bottom, and don't fret because you can just go in the middle of these 2, really on this side, sledge, rotate, sledge, and go into a U-perm. That's it for Skewb, so just knowing all of those cases will greatly help your times. But you don't even really need to know those pesky ones where there's nothing but 1. You can just do it till you get it, in my opinion. But that's really just how it works for me. For Pyraminx, I don't know beginner's method, but what I will say is you definitely want to be color neutral, and you want to be inserting things like if this piece needs to be inserted into here and it's here in the back, you can insert with a cancellation rather than coming up and then back down to insert, or doing that. One big thing of advice I would say, this is definitely my opinion, but rather than doing that, what I do is I do more finger trick friendly ones. So for example, if you need to flip these with, I think this is an anti-soon, I'm not sure, I would insert this where it needs to go, rotate, and it's pretty fast in the solves. Pretty decent. For all of them, you can just find your own solutions. This one, I tried to use the R, U prime, R prime, U, R prime, L, R, L prime. That really took a lot of brain power out of me. And yeah, that's about it. I think for tips, try to know how you're going to do them in accordance to finger tricks and do them throughout the solve rather than at the beginning or at the end. And yeah, that's about it. I think when you get a little bit better with Pyraminx, try to preserve the edges and insert the edges before you're done with the centers so that it's going to be easier down the line for you. But that's about all the advice I have for Pyraminx. I don't know beginner's method because I kind of just skipped to like the intermediate kind of method, but yeah. Finally for 2x2, I do not understand how people can be sub 10 with beginner's method. I use Ortega, so I've done thousands of solves, so I will almost always know the best way that I would like to do the different ways to make your first side. And one thing that I'll say is learning full Ortega is not terrible. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 algorithm. Okay, it's 4 plus this algorithm, which is 3 moves, so I don't even know if that counts. Like 4.5 algorithms for that, and then the other algorithms are just not terrible. I promise it's worth it. And I use Ortega right now. I average about like high 3 to low 4. Things that I do that are slightly more advanced that can help you get to there. The first thing is gonna be trying to track some of the pieces to be able to, you should always be able to one look your first side or layer. And if making a layer is one move away, I do generally do that because it's easier recognition to me. So that's about it. Yeah, the only thing I would say is maybe like if you like midway through most of the algorithms, I'll know what my AUF is gonna be. So I think that can be helpful for sure. Like here, I know there's gonna be no AUF. Here, since these two are opposite, it's gonna be U2 AUF. And yeah, I think that's about it. Practice makes perfect. Arastu Mirza, we're gonna be out. Please remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Just please do anything. We're really trying to get this channel monetized. It's only been a couple weeks since I opened it up, and y'all have been giving me an insane amount of love. I am forever grateful. I have like 50,000 views. This is absolutely insane. And I'm committing to making these videos, and they're gonna be better every time. And I know y'all are gonna start liking this content more and more as we go on. See y'all.